Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to my Halloween movie marathon. And tonight, I just finished watching the original Boris Karloff Mummy film. And honestly, out of all the Universal Monsters films that I've seen thus far, this one is my least favorite. I honestly thought that I'd like this one, but it's okay at best. So a little bit of backstory on this. I've seen parts of the film before, and I also used to check out the Universal Monsters books, like at the library at my school. So I'd always read some behind the scenes and the original story as well as its sequels um, on like what they did for the original Universal Monsters film. So I read the books that were of like Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, Jekyll and Hyde. So like I already knew what was going to happen in just about all of these films beforehand, and I've seen parts of the Mummy like back when they played it on the late night MeTV thing called Svengoolie. The most memorable scene for me in that one was like just the scene where Imhotep like reaches into that basin of water and causes a guy to get a heart attack to stop him from burning the scroll. That scene always stuck with me. I thought it was pretty damn cool. At the time, I'd imagine it was pretty frightening because, like, I seriously doubt that any of the monsters, even Dracula, did that in his films. Which, speaking of, I will give Boris Karloff credit that like he plays his role like very well. I can't remember if I said that I preferred Frankenstein's monster portrayal over this one. Well, at the time of me recording this, I've now seen Frankenstein and the Mummy back to back, and I actually prefer his portrayal as Imhotep, and that's mostly because like he's actually speaking in the role instead of just grunting and like making these inhuman noises. And as opposed to Frankenstein's monster, who basically has the mental capacity of a child, Imhotep has this like really sinister presence around him in the film whenever he speaks, whenever he moves. He's honestly not. If I could actually compare it with the other Universal monsters, like I'd honestly say it's almost like a cross between Dracula and Frankenstein's monster, with just the way that he moves and the way that he speaks, and like even his little death glare that he does at people before he kills them always has this like just sinister edge to it that just looks really cool. Oh, and the music is also pretty good whenever it does happen. Because like with the Wolfman that I saw previously, um, there's not a whole lot of music, but when the music does play, it's pretty damn good. Um, and I will say, like, there's honestly some fairly gruesome moments, or at least gruesome at the time, where I mean, I already talked about how Imhotep, the main way that he kills people is that he almost telekinetically causes them to have heart attacks. And there's also this entire flashback sequence of Imhotep being mummified while he's still alive, which, if I'm correct, they use that same visual and idea for all the Mummy remakes. I know they did for the Tom Cruise remake, which I never saw, but I did see the writing on the wall that the movie was gonna fail, just on the basis that that they just chucked in Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for pretty much no reason other than to set up their own shared universe. Um, The storyline was okay. I mean, I kind of already knew what the story was going to be about because, like, they more or less copied it for the Brendan Fraser remake, which that movie I'm more exposed to, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I like that version more. But I already knew what was gonna happen at the end, where Imhotep was gonna be after this one woman who was the reincarnated version of an Egyptian princess. I think, but I already knew what was gonna happen, and based on what I had read from that book from the library, the Egyptian princess prays to her god to basically smite Imhotep, and basically that's how the movie ends. And like I said, for a movie from the 30s, it had a decent amount of like gruesome moments, or at least gruesome for the time. Unfortunately, that's where all my praise ends because I just got bored with this film. Whenever Boris Karloff wasn't on screen, I just didn't care about any of the other characters. And maybe that's because like none of the characters I bothered to remember their names. Like for Dracula, you got Count Dracula, you got Van Helsing, you have like John Harker and Mina Seward, right? For the Wolfman, you have Larry Talbot as the Wolfman, and you got his father John Talbot, and even in a minor role, you had Bela Lugosi as Bela. And for Frankenstein, you got Victor Frankenstein, or in the movie Henry Frankenstein, his monster, who was also played by Boris Karloff, and Frankenstein's soon-to-be wife Elizabeth. With The Mummy, you don't exactly have that, or at least I didn't see that. Like you got Imhotep as the main villain, and that's it. There's also the Egyptian princess who gets reincarnated into the new era, but I couldn't remember her name at all, and maybe that's on me. Now, taking all that into account, you fast forward to like the remakes with Brendan Fraser. You got Imhotep, you got Rick O'Connell, you got his eventual wife, who is again the reincarnated princess or priestess or whoever, and you also eventually have their son. Even in this, even in like the new Mummy film, like there's still enough people that you recognize. Like you got Princess Amenette, who unfortunately I can't remember the actress's name, Sophia something, but she was also in the original Kingsman film, and like of course you're gonna remember Tom Cruise, even though I don't remember for the life of me the character he plays, and that's all that I can and that's all I can think of. And like, even though I personally didn't think they had any reason to have Jekyll and Hyde in there, like you still recognize Russell Crowe. But again, for the original Mummy film, like aside from Boris Karloff, there wasn't a single person that grabbed my attention, and I doubt that anyone specifically my age is going to be a captivating audience for this film. That and the fact that like most of the other Universal Monsters films that I've seen so far, the movie kind of ends abruptly, right? Like it ends where the Egyptian princess calls upon her goddess for help. Imhotep gets like blasted away and defeated, and it literally rolls to credits right afterward. And again, like with Dracula, I feel like there should have been at least a couple more minutes after that, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. But just to summarize, this film was okay. I mean, So far, it's the only Universal classic monster film that hasn't kept my attention for the entire 75 minutes of length. So no, but like I can't bring myself to hate it either, partially because of it came out in the early 1930s, so I feel like I can't be too hard on it. So I guess just to wrap it all up, like it's a decent enough film. Like uh, like you're gonna like every scene that Boris Karloff is in, like because he steals the show. That's why he plays the mummy. Which, oh, speaking of, one thing that I've always been a little bit on the fence about is, and my final sort of gripe that's I halfway still like it, halfway don't, but the final thing that I'm on the fence about is regarding Boris Karloff as the mummy Imhotep. As much as I like that he's in an actual speaking role this time, I also think that the main garb that he's in, being like the sort of fez hat and the tunic, I feel like he's in it too much in this film. Like for a movie that's titled The Mummy, and since Boris Karloff plays the mummy, he's only in like the traditional mummy costume for one scene, and that's at the very beginning, and that's it. And again, as awesome as it is that Boris Karloff is in a speaking role in this film, I just find it odd that, again, for a movie that's called The Mummy, and like they even have the mummified rags on the poster, that's only how he looks for the first 5 minutes, and then aside from that, and like the flashback sequence where he's being mummified alive, aside from that, he's wearing like Egyptian robes and a fez hat. But aside from all that, this film was okay. It was decent enough, but with everything that I've said so far, it is still like my least favorite in the Universal Monsters movies so far. Like it's not nearly as good as I remembered it when I first saw it, and hopefully when I watch The Invisible Man, hopefully that will sort of like lift my spirits on the series so far. But anyway, with all that said, that's it for this review, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another horror movie review for this whole month. And look out for my Invisible Man review when it eventually comes out. Goodbye, everyone.